Grace to you and peace from the Creator of all, the God of our past, the God of our present, the God of our future. Amen. When he was young, about 3.5, my nephew Ethan was really into shooting hoops. He had one of those Fisher-Price little 5-foot basketball hoops in the living room, you know the thing. Early one morning when I was visiting, he ran down the hallway to the door of the guest room and said, "Aunt Shell, come on, get up, let's shoot hoops." And his dad from down the hall said, "Ethan." Ethan said, "Please?" Ethan's mother said, "Ethan Ross." He said, "Thank you." And they both said, "Ethan." He said, "I'm sorry." And then he came into my room and whispered in my ear, "Come on, Aunt Shell, get up, please. Let's go shoot hoops." "Thank you, I'm sorry." And so we were shooting hoops for the rest of the day. Ethan was learning manners. He didn't know which words kind of went when and where, but he was learning. Throughout our life, we forgive. It's part of who we are. It's part of good manners. You bump into somebody's cart at the grocery store. "Oh, excuse me." You want to go around somebody in a hallway. "Pardon me." We have these ways of navigating, being together, that allow us to kind of invade somebody else's personal space or thought process, and we acknowledge it, and we move on. Everyone has an experience with forgiveness. Sometimes forgiveness is really hard. And I want to talk about 2 specific times when forgiveness is just plain harder. If this is triggering for you, I invite you to look at the words of the next hymn and just go ahead and take the space that you need. If you'd like to talk about any part of your story later on, boy, I'm available. It'd be an honor to hear that. But if you can allow yourself to hear maybe some new perspective today, I invite you to do that. I'm not going to talk about what it means when you need to ask for forgiveness. That's a different story. We're focusing on today what it's like when you're having a hard time forgiving. To frame this, a reminder that sin is a break in a relationship. It's a rupture. It could be a rupture in our relationship with God or with anyone else or creation or with ourselves. A second reminder, there are words that can haunt a person's life. Coulda, woulda, and shoulda. I could have forgiven, but, well, that's regret. Maybe you'd hoped for a face-to-face conversation, but the person died or moved away and you thought you lost your chance. I would have forgiven if, and that's resentment. You're waiting for an apology that maybe will never come, but you're going to hold on to that possibility. I should have forgiven. Well, that's unresolved pain. Forgiveness is difficult when our self-understanding or our freedom to act are threatened. When that is the case, folks have a harder time forgiving, and we often should on ourselves. I was 12 and I was given permission to ride my new bike to softball practice, to the grocery store, and 5 miles round trip to the public library. It was freedom, it was great. And then someone stole my bike off the front porch. This is after my folks said, if you don't put your bike on the front porch, it will be stolen. Well, it was stolen. I had done nothing wrong. I was so bummed. Well, one of my teammates recognized my bike on her porch where her bike should have been. And the parents of the neighborhood kind of put all this together and realized somebody had gone bike hopping and started with my bike, so I didn't end up with a new bike on my porch. But these bikes had been deposited all around the neighborhood. And the teen who had done it was really embarrassed and confessed, and there was a lot of regret and everything. And, eventually I got my bike back. No big deal. Was it a crime? Technically, yes. Was I sinned against? Yes. Not a big deal. When I was 15, I was treated for scoliosis by wearing a full body cast. The kind with the big plaster piece back here and football shoulders. Ugly, ugly. Did I mention I was 15? Okay. At that age, who isn't concerned about body image or fitting in or their purpose in life or, all the things? In one class one day, I knew something was going on. My friend Beth always sat behind me, and so I had this big body cast. By the time I could get turned around, everything was fine. And then I'd turn back around, and it would start up again. That night, my sister said, "There's a tic-tac-toe drawn on your cast right back here." And then a little heart with somebody's initials. That's what Beth had been doing. Oh, this is so hard. I was so mortified. I was so embarrassed. I'd been the butt of the joke by the class clown. I was betrayed by someone I considered a friend. And I felt so alone because no one had stood up for me. I wasn't in anyone's group. This was a wound. My sister told my mom. My mom must have called the school because Beth basically disappeared from my life. We stopped walking home from school together. If I entered a room, she would walk to the other side of the room and not look at me. Her locker was moved from right next to mine to somewhere else in the school, and I don't know where. No adult ever talked with me about this, and Beth and I never talked about it. But I know that if we had, I would have said, "Oh, no big deal," because I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I just wanted to fit in. And this adult Shelley has had to have words of forgiveness for the 15-year-old Shelley who just was doing her best, Forgive and forget is what Shakespeare wrote. What Jesus said is remember and go to the person if you can. And if that doesn't work, bring another person with you to help mediate. And if that doesn't work, well, then bring some more. And you bring your community together for the sake of reconciliation. And sometimes it doesn't work. But you do your part in a safe way. And then you treat that person like an outsider, a Gentile, or a tax collector, he said, which initially people would have heard it as, those bad people, but you know what Jesus did with those people? He said, y'all come in. You're welcome here. You're one of mine. To remember and forgive is to lock that sin in place and time so that it no longer has power over you. It does not define you. And this is the difference between being a victim and a survivor. What happened to you matters. It's part of your life now. But it doesn't tell you who you are. The way you think of yourself, how you live, the way you live, is not defined by that sin against you. And forgiveness doesn't change what happened in the past, but it does open up the future. Forgiving doesn't mean you become a doormat for more abuse. You can forgive but not invite that person back through your doorway. And dear friends, forgiveness doesn't require an apology, because forgiveness is about the freedom to not be defined by the sin against you. Holding on to a grudge, waiting for an apology before you'll forgive, keeps you entangled with the abuse. It keeps you focused on the past with all that energy just swirling down the drain. Stop playing that game. Your life matters today. In 2006, a local man barged into the nickel mine school and shot 10 Amish schoolgirls. 5 of them died. The Amish families took food to that shooter's wife. When money poured in for them, they shared it with her. They had extreme medical expenses that, of course, they did not have insurance for, but they cared for her as well. As a community, they announced that they had decided to forgive the killer, but it has not been simple. Forgiveness is not a once and done thing, one mother said. It's a lifelong process. Forgiveness means that they continue to grieve their daughters, and their sons who were classmates have had to work through what it means to be a survivor, when they would have wanted to have done anything to protect their sisters and classmates. The decision to forgive the killer was a decision of giving up the right to revenge and grudges. We're about to sing a long hymn. It has 6 verses. I want to give you time to kind of maybe process a little bit of what you've heard. Child of God, there is nothing you have done or left undone or that anyone has done to you that changes, that impacts the fact that you are a beloved child of God. What has been done to you does not define you. What God has done for all of us in Jesus does. Your freedom to act then may have been taken from you at that time, but not today. The damage, the wound to who you thought you were was real then. You're healing from that even now. Forgive who you were back then. Love that person back then. Love that person with forgiveness you can give now. Where is God when it's hard to forgive? with us. With us. Luther taught that we should remember our baptism each day, making the sign of the cross on our forehead, reminding ourselves that we are beloved children of God, forgiven, renewed, sanctified, made holy in who Christ is for us. We are emboldened for this faith of life. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we learn what it means one day at a time. But we have that day. Thanks be to God. This gift of freedom is for you.